then, yeah, I'll send you the list. It's a great picture. Well, since it was already put in before.
Not exactly.
But I just grabbed that and just said we're gonna do the possible, but then we're just gonna have to, like we talked about before, touch base in June.
You can take it.
There's some.
No, I agree, and I don't want them to lose the funds, no, you know. There's right, so I think. We just, all the way through. It is,
Probably 10, 11.
I think it's all CDW.
I don't remember the rate.
So that you like, yeah.
So this is all the. This is.
How are you?
Hey, good. How are
I mean, it's.
you? Oh, it's your.
Yeah, it's fine. Also, do you mind if I make a copy of your plan?
So anyway, I just.
I'm just like this. I'm not.
Oh, I got you.
I have a copy right here. I can take it.
Forward now, yeah.
I'm pretty sure I still had it in here. Because I think.
Okay. It's like they know.
You're supposed to come early.
Whatever they give blood. You fill everything out online now.
How are you?
And they get into the.
I meant to be.
Thanks for, donating blood. I thought you transfer in and click on it. He's like, oh, yeah, I just scan it. I might see if I wish they had told me. They didn't quite bring up the shirt. They gave me a shirt anyway. I'll be right back. I didn't have time to put it out again. Excuse me, sir. I'll be right back.
I could just sit down on it. I tell you what, I get when you're not having way worse shape than you are in about 3 seconds. And he had been done, and you're on the phone, and he is in the wow.
Did you have to chase that runaway that happened?
That's
what I don't know if y'all got
I don't run and try a while, but I couldn't find out. But I'm just wishing it's still around.
Yeah.
Yeah, a week ago.
That's what you get right there.
Yeah. I totally get it.
I can still find.
There you go. That's your favorite thing right there. I have clips that I have,
They moved it up. Yeah, that would have been.
I needed a check. I just figured there was a box I was supposed to check. Even though they were.
All right.
Is she?
Okay, you're fine.
Wow. That's pretty good. Wow. Where do I go? To my hoax. Yeah. Where I
I don't know why you're trying to put it because he's trying to check my ball again. So,
Yeah, no idea.
I feel I'm not touched. I understand where he's coming from at the same time.
But that way you won't get this.
Not in 5 years.
I don't know.
Complaining on that, under school costs.
Basically, you went to these 10 schools. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured.
How are you, sir? Good, sir. How are you? Yeah, I'm almost done for the year, right?
Yeah, this, that home stretch is pretty tight.
I imagine. Yeah, I imagine, right? I won't say. Makes you feel better. Yeah, oh yeah, make sure he graduated. I don't
I'm married.
Yeah, we've had parties, but it's. Sit wherever you want to, all right?
They'll probably use that screen though.
Yeah, thank you, one time, guys. Yeah, it was like, it was a quick little one. I'm just right here.
Unless you went on that spin time. I'm gonna try something new tonight. We'll cover the work session about the meeting.
I was in.
Y'all aren't doing a live stream from what I can gather, so.
I'll take my home being able.
Well, you can go wherever you want, because I probably had to go back to the deadline, so I'll just assume you're gonna pass a budget.
You can call me.
How long do you think it'll last realistically?
Is it a quick one or this? No. A lot of presentations. A lot of presentations.
There's like 10 special
It'll take a while.
That's 8 problems.
special recognitions.
I gotta be done and everything in by 9, so.
I said, that's a problem.
It's 30 minutes to get back, and I wasn't sure. I know you have Wi-Fi, but I wasn't sure if it was available on such a short notice. It shows it's not recording.
What happened? Did you crash?
Which one is it, the 963?
Here you go. Yeah, there it is.
That's why I can't
I don't want to be about yet.
for engineering. Mine's only 5 pages.
So you got about
His is
10 left?
6.
So,
Yeah.
you know, it's something to be said.
Well, thank y'all for
Let's do it.
Yes, sir. You're being
Yeah, let that
flexible.
go away.
We moved the meeting location. So we was going to do a tour. It would have worked out well.
So now they get the
We went and looked at it. It's downstairs. So, yeah, we can be there. No, which one?
On way in my yard, grass is growing through, it's growing good, it's starting, some of the deeper spots, it's just a little short, but the other spots, it's going good right now.
That'll be a fall project for me. Because it's something
But it's good, it's good. So it turned out, I'm happy. I watered it, I put a liquid fertilizer on it like, with the water hose, and then it's been going great.
I know, that's, usually being told it's not, it's not.
He told me everything. He went from 2 or 3 other teams, 6 or 7. He said it's been a big job. If you ever use, especially now, we've done that. Took one kid. I knew on the dentist. That'll be all right. He comes with whatever.
It's out.
It's not me, I'm here.
Talking to your daughter about what you did.
But yeah, if you ever need to borrow any of that stuff, we'll have it now. Oh yeah, it's actually the best time, yeah. I didn't think about it last fall, well, I wasn't as motivated last fall. Now I'm motivated also. Yeah. If you haven't played your garden yet?
I was gonna say potatoes again.
Well, I planted potatoes 7 years ago, and they're still growing in the ground, like they're still like, I'm going through it, like occasionally I'll be digging around, and boom, there's one.
But I don't know what's for supper. So we're finished because I'm like, part of the train.
Now, how far was it?
You know?
And from the stores out there, and regular Irish paper. And it's, then I was like, you don't have to dig, all you do is get the bottom back, you took it over, pour it out.
Yeah.
I'm running big sweet potatoes, so I'm worried about that. She had you, she lost you.
No, marshmallows. No, you got, so I can skip out on the marshmallow. I gotta have that cinnamon bar.
He never stood at the lake.
I don't know, as long as it's got cinnamon butter on it,
Nutritional value.
If I use salad, I want double dressing.
See, I don't eat dressing on my salad. I like the taste of it. I just sit there and eat
I like
rice all
that
day.
too, but I like the dressing. And if it's a good dressing.
I went for lunch.
My wife always makes fun of me though, because I'll be like, order a salad with no dressing.
Let me tell you this real quick. So,
Why didn't y'all call us?
Because we don't have to. So I guess I put on. There was a receipt. But it was all when you got papers, was it? And I thought, y'all tell these guys. But I
Good afternoon, everybody. All right, we're going to go ahead and get underway. We do have a nice little work session agenda to complete. And any time remaining after that, we'll go over our regular agenda. A lot of recognitions tonight. I just told Chairman Price, I said, one of the best problems to have is to have a whole bunch of recognitions to go through. So we're very proud of our students, and we're going to show them off tonight and congratulate them on a lot of jobs well done. We're fortunate to have Holston Engineering here this evening with us. Joe, I'll turn it over to you guys, Peyton.
All right. Okay, so I'm Darwin Cartmall, I'm president of Holston Engineering, and we were commissioned to take a look at the condition of electrical services in 10 of the schools, older schools, in areas where we knew that the electrical services in gear was a little bit older. And Peyton Milhorn, one of our young electrical engineers, did the report, and I'm going to turn it over to him and let him sort of go through it and talk to you about what we found and how we presented the report and what the priorities are, okay?
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. Again, my name's Peyton Milhorn. Just want to quickly walk through this summary of our report here, go over some of our findings with you, and open the floor for any questions at the end of this. Basically, what we were asked to do, we were asked to visit 11 of the older schools in your system and take a look at the incoming electric service, switchgear, various panel boards throughout the schools, things like that, basically how you bring power into the schools, and take a look at the condition and the age, things like that. Basically what we have done is we grouped the schools into 3 priority levels. You've got priority level 1, which are your schools which have immediate concerns, safety issues potentially, schools where you may have significant downtime if you have any electrical issues at these schools. Your level 2 schools are schools that have switchgear with aging devices, things like that, where you may want to consider it in the coming years, things like that. And your level 3 schools are the ones that are in really good condition. You don't really have any issues there. I guess as a highlight reel here, you've basically got the biggest issues, in our opinion. You have Central Heights and Holston, which have Federal Pacific switchgear, and those are notorious for having issues, things like that. You're not going to be able to find replacement parts, things like that. So if you have an issue at either of these schools, you're going to have potentially a long downtime with wings, maybe even the entire school. It just depends what happens. So things like that you may want to look at replacing in the future.
And we will note that it's not Federal Pacific of Bristol, Virginia.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Correct.
It is old-timey Federal Pacific.
Not too confused. Again, carrying on, you've got schools like Mary Hughes, which has original fuse boxes still in the hallway, which are extremely dated technology. Same thing at East. You have switchgear that is original to the building from the late 60s. I think that's pretty much what we've covered. The summary of the report here. We have in greater detail as you flip through, we have pictures and things like that breaking down certain concerns at the various schools as you go through the report there, but that's kind of the overall view of what we've addressed here.
The very last page has got his summary on it, so it's sort of an executive summary so that you can see what we've done. And basically the priority 1 schools, to sort of reiterate what he has said, is it's either old switchgear or known issues with devices that if you had a problem, say you tripped the school offline, such as Sullivan Heights, you may not get the school back online, and you may not be able to get the switchgear repaired, which would be a significant outage. Now, it may never happen, but we know that the main switches coming in over the years, as they are everywhere, this is not unique to the school system, the type of switch that's in it has not been maintained, and if they trip off in an emergency, you probably aren't going to get them back on.
So when you say trip off, just kind of like in my fuse box, if
Same
something,
thing.
Right.
power surge and it trips the breaker,
Yeah, only
This
about
trips.
1,000 times bigger, but yes.
so if this trips, it doesn't.
Right.
Right.
What brought this on was our chiller project. The electrician and I discussed, should we trip off the Pringle switch or pull the fuses out of the utility transformer? And he said he would feel more comfortable with the fuses out of the utility transformer because the switch, as he looked at it after he pulled the plate off, the grease around the mechanism had dried up to a solid, probably as hard as that table. You don't know if the switch is going to reset or if it will even trip under a fault condition. So that's what really precipitated us as we brought this forward
You know,
to do this
priority one
report.
school staff is sort of, they're not all the same issue, but that type of issue is what we put into the priority ones. Okay, so,
Sullivan East is very much like Sullivan Heights
yes.
as far as.
Old year, 60s vintage, you know, true antiques at that point. Probably can't buy any replacement parts except off the secondhand market.
What kind of event does it take for it to trip? Is it major? I mean,
If breakers are not coordinated, and for that, we're getting into real technical at the moment, but if a downstream 20 amp breaker holds, then if there's a fault, an upstream breaker will trip. And you don't want that to be your main or your building's down. And if it happens to be, I'll use Sullivan Heights again, if it were the main there, you may not get it to reset, which means that school's dead till you put new gear in.
I think what I was trying to figure out for myself is what kind of event would cause that to happen?
You can have any kind of a short in a VCR, anything that causes a
Small.
fault in a line. That's why you want the small breakers. If you look in your panels throughout your buildings, you've got a whole bunch of small breakers. You want those to go first. If they don't trip for any reason, if the spring's bad, if the contacts have galded together, that fault's going to go right on up the line, and the first breaker that trips after it can bring down a wing, a section of cafeteria, any of that. And you just don't know it due to the age. You don't know as these things have been manufactured, you don't know what's going to work and what doesn't after a while.
So if there's anything from like a snowstorm where a transformer goes out
If you lose,
or something corroded.
one of
that big
3
mistake.
transformers can cause a real problem, because if you lose one phase, the other 2 are still trying to work, and it doesn't have the third leg. Those 2 phases, all of a sudden, their current will go up.
And it tries to trip and it doesn't,
And it
or
won't.
you lose part of it and you don't have a switch then you can't get the power back on. So
Back at Sullivan Heights, we did opt to pull the fuses. Utility was very cooperative, opened it up, pulled the fuses, we did the project, put the fuses back in, the building came up. Had no issues.
So with the properly working switchgear, that situation happens, it just trips.
You just go back in and
Reset.
that's it. Much as we do at our homes, if something goes wrong.
So the level 2 and 3, aging obsolete, there's no replacement for what we currently have?
You can still get some parts for a few more years. We don't know when the manufacturers are going to discontinue those parts.
you may be on the secondhand refurbished market if you had to be in an emergency. But again, the level 2 is be aware it's going to need to be replaced, because you're not, at some point in the next 5 years, we think you're not going to be able to get parts for the most part. You know,
Is there any preventative maintenance that Bill's maintenance team can do to extend the likelihood of there not being an issue with the level 2s and level 3s, or even level 1s at this point?
I would think some further investigation could help, especially at Rock Springs and Sullivan Garden, where you have rust present on some of these. Especially, you have the mains coming in, they're at exterior rooms, they're in boiler rooms where there's standing water present. There's a significant amount of rust on both of the incoming switchgear at those two schools. Places like that, you could at least further investigate to see how serious the issue is, if it goes inside or if it's just the
help
enclosure.
dry it up if it's not dried now, help dry up some of those issues. Like, for example, Miller Perry, I know that's in the boiler room, and the boiler leaked for
We got that.
several times, we got it fixed, but the switchgear suffered. And, it's sitting there with steam on it for a good period of time. It's got rust on the, any place that had a little nick or anything like that, it's got rust on it and corrosion, and so that plays a part into, if you have a mechanical failure or something fall off, rust fall across, piece of rust fall across the poles, it trips. That's part of it. And then the age of getting parts and getting it replaced. And the fear is a lot of the new equipment is a year lead time. That's the real issue. If you had a real issue and you had to go replace switchgear, it may be a year before you can actually get the equipment in. So you're kind of stuck.
That was, when Bill and I talked with you, that was one of the things that really caught my attention. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit, like a timeline? Let's say one happens in August.
Let's use Central, where we did that HVAC work around it. That switchgear had been promised to us 6 months after the order was placed. Shop drawings were approved. 6 months came, we moved them up. 7 months went by, 8, 9, 10. The factory just moved the goalpost. And nobody had
It was
any
12 months
control
of time we've got laying on the site, right? And so if you had a failure, let's talk about just the timeline here, Joe, for a second. So if you had a failure tomorrow, first you go out and you assess what needs to be replaced. You can quickly do that. Then you have to do some sort of emergency funding. You get funding in place. That's going to take, let's say, a month, 6 weeks, 2 weeks, whatever that number is. Then you come in and you say, all right, we've got it on order now. We've got the PO placed, gone through all that. We've got an order. I've got a year, possibly, to get equipment, plus another 6 or 8 weeks installation time.
14 months. So if it happens in August,
Yeah.
we've got a year.
You've got a year.
Of no, can we provide power without the switchgear or some
It
alternate
depends on
source?
where it fails, but the problem is on the ones where we got priority ones, there are issues with the very front end coming in.
So that might not even be an option to have a generator, temporary generator brought in or
Right.
something.
The non-Bristol, Virginia Federal Pacific, and I like the way you did that. Those pieces of gear, if you want to look at it online, it's well documented. That company back then cut corners, went around some testing, and sold. Everybody bought it. This is not localized. This is nationwide. We've already worked in North Carolina replacing Federal Pacific. It's one of those things. Where the clips mount to the bus bar, that softens up over time and allows it to drift away. And that creates high currents.
Heat and other things deteriorating, and then there's a failure. So.
And it's not like the sky is falling on any of these. If anybody can tell me when any of you are going to drive over a screw on the road and puncture your tire, please help us out with the dates when these things are going to happen. But it's that kind of an ordeal. That's what we're looking at.
When it happens, it happens.
Right. You may be 10 years on every one of these. You may be a day. Nobody knows. But we know with the age, the statistics are you're getting closer to having that happen.
They all have expiration dates.
Right.
Good
And I'm
question.
sure
At
back,
some time,
Good point.
I mean, basically, we would have to, if we're going to replace these, they'd have to be done in the summertime. That's the only time there's going to be 6 weeks
Right.
of kids not to do it.
So
And
that goes back to the timelines,
that's right, that's right.
and that's how you
back
have
to
to,
planning.
of a
Right.
year and a half
you're a
out.
year and a half ahead of planning is what you have to be to be able to
Same,
get it
like
done.
the same thing you're gonna do with the gym floor.
Right,
We
you
got-
got back
Well,
up.
we've gotta do something because if this thing goes out, where we're gonna put kids for Sullivan Heights Middle School? There you got,
And
if
or
the,
either-
yeah, or
Any of them.
the food, you know, you got your refrigeration and stuff that goes down. You're gonna lose all that food. It's gonna cost us probably twice as much more if we let it go out and not fix it.
And-
Take Miller Perry too, is what I have to.
To give you,
Sullivan Heights usually take out all the roads.
Cross Springs.
to give you an idea, we did 2 of these changeouts in a local school systems high school building that had 2 services. We started in November so they could do it in the summer. And we had everything, the bid, I think, was even before Christmas. So we could make sure, and this was pre-COVID, but we got one done one summer and one done the next. And everybody, even the power board was happy.
Yeah, it'd be one
But
of
it
those,
does take a while.
it'd be one of those things I'd want to order the switchgear, and even if the switchgear sat there for a month or 2, I'd much rather it sit sitting there.
Yeah, you want it sitting on the ground in March
Yeah, that's what I'm saying,
Do the job.
to do the job. Right.
Yeah, have 6 weeks.
And the other piece of it is the prices that we put out are just our best estimate. I know Bill has adjusted those because I know this is gonna be down the road. I didn't wanna double dip on contingency, so we tried to give you what we thought sort of was gonna be one of these for the prices. And I applaud thinking ahead about the, you know, if it's 5 years down the road, it's gonna be looking more and that type of thing. So I don't take those prices with a grain of salt. It's sort of a budgeting guideline from our experience, okay? We haven't priced equipment or anything like that, but we've done several of these, and we sort of know about what we think these are gonna cost today, right? Now, the other issue you're gonna get into, just to be aware, you know, in these old schools, when we start pulling stuff apart, we're not gonna know everything because until you start pulling the switchgear out, you may find that the insulation falls off the main feeder coming in. And then you gotta go replace the main feeder wire, all right? There's gonna be some things that you don't know, and my only caution is when and if you guys set up projects for these, make sure that you have a fair amount of contingency on, because you're dealing with old schools and old equipment, that when you replace it, there's going to be unknowns. And we don't want to kid ourselves in thinking it's going to be real clean. You're going to go in and replace the equipment, and it'll be great when you get it back up, but when you start pulling that stuff out, you're going to find things. You know.
But those things that we find beyond that main switchgear or whatever, are those easier to purchase, to find, to access?
Typically, it's going to be wire or smaller things.
And in the other part of that question, the 200 amp panel is almost off the shelf. A 400 is a couple of weeks. 600, you're getting into a couple of months. That's what, the bigger the number in amperage, the longer the lead time.
So as long as we were to start the day after school was closed, and even if we ran into some of those problems, we would hopefully have enough time to.
Yes.
Right.
And what you find is not big things. It's like, okay, we got to replace the feeder wire coming in. Well, you can get the wire next day. We got conduit that's rusted out that has caused us a problem. We'll go up and dig up the conduit. We can get the pieces for it. It's going to take more labor and more time and money, but it's not. We haven't really found anything when we've done these that has stopped us. It's like, oh yeah, we need to go take care of this, or we just did one and they took the chiller and they took the feeder apart going to the chiller to replace the fuse box, and because it's rusted out, and as soon as they touched the feed wire, the insulation fell off of it. And, then we're talking wire this big around, so that would not be a small event. But that's the type of things you'll find. As long as you start like the day the school's out, I don't fear doing the job during the summer. But my thing is cost. You need to be prepared that you're doing it during the summer. It's like, I got to overnight some wiring because we found 400 feet of wire that was bad, or that type of thing. And just be cognizant of that. It's my only request.
and start it early in the school year from a design perspective. It gives you all time to work with that school, like you were saying, food, you've got to do something with refrigeration, you may have computer systems, all that will need to be addressed because the building's going to be black. There won't be anything on.
Bill, you have priorities in the 5-year strategic plan. They're accordingly to this kind of priority 1, 2, 3, aren't they? Yeah.
And in our priority ones, I don't know that there's one that's the highest, but again, they're all sort of in the same bucket in our mind, right? And I couldn't tell you if one would fail before the other. We know there's all significant issues with durability and safety on all the schools, potentially, right? On all those first ones particularly.
Any other questions for Carolyn? Joe? Thank you all.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Y'all welcome to stay, it's gonna be fun.
Is the Sullivan presentation going to be tonight?
Sullivan West,
Yes.
not tonight,
Okay,
no.
then I'll go. I'm an old pirate and I was going to stay for that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Why the Mary Hughes uses.
Yeah.
That's for a whole school. For a whole school with certain fuses.
At our retreat, item number 2, we discussed and even had a guest, unexpected guest from speak there briefly to us about the hosted property. And I think the guidance I got from our board was to reach out to Dan Street, county attorney, and get his guidance. And so I did that. I reached out to him and he said, this is your next step. He said, either A, the school board's going to decide to keep this property, and if you do that, he said, you've got to have a plan to fix that roof. He said, because right now it's a big liability insurance risk, and it's significant. So we either got to have a plan to keep it and fix it, or B, he would take on the work of contacting the original owners. We would basically give it back to the county, and they would in turn give it back to the original owners, which is part of the way that it was deeded over to the school system. And then as far as what they do with it from there, that's up to them. Those original family members that get to the school system. So we do have it on our agenda tonight as a voting item, but this will be an opportunity for any other discussion about is the board's pleasure to keep the building and fix it, or do we just, we're not going to benefit from it financially regardless, because it's not ours in that sense. As long as we want to use it for an educational purpose, we maintain it as long as we want to. But at some point, if we decide we're not going to use it any longer, it goes back to the original family. So we can talk about that, see if there's any discussion, conversation, and take a vote on it tonight. And if it's to move forward with disassociate ourselves from it, then we
I don't
would.
think we need any more meetings.
I don't think we need.
Yeah.
Bill, do y'all use you got somewhere to put that stuff? Don't y'all use,
We'll get that, yeah.
I mean, you got somewhere else to put it or
Yes,
whatever?
sir.
That's my only question.
Yeah, that's it.
The
That would be
metal
it.
building.
And that would be it as far as the Department of Ed, right?
I believe the county government side has some things stored in there as well.
Yeah.
Well,
As far as the
they'll
department.
take over the building and they can.
Yeah, they can do whatever. Yeah.
So we got somewhere to put the
I
metal
think that's the
buildings
best
and
option.
filters?
Yeah, we'll get that.
You've got somewhere to move it to them?
You just take the whole metal building.
We can take it down, we can put the metal building somewhere else.
Okay.
I think that's the best idea.
So we'll just
Wash
bring
your
that
hands up.
for a vote tonight? All right. Another item, and we got this on unfinished business along with the Postal Warehouse. We had a presentation when we were out Sullivan East, and I'd like to bring that before the board to ask for a vote tonight on initiating a middle school swim coach position, a stipend for that. And that would be servicing Central, Middle, and Sullivan Heights Middle. And then, I know Mr. Padgett's here, but as far as the students from Sullivan East Middle, they would be invited to participate in that team, or?
I would say, part of it may depend on who you hire, or if you keep Coach Skinner as the person, like that may depend, but I've sent Coach Skinner a text to see if he could come tonight, and then you could ask him yourself, but I would bet money that he would be willing to take whoever's willing to come. That would be my guess,
So it might be
if he's the one that's doing it.
kind of a united middle school program with one coach.
Yeah, the big thing is we're just gonna clear with the TS middle school.
Then they can practice with the high school or.
And then they can be like a coherent team possibly, or whatever.
True.
So it's the same
I-
coach, isn't it?
It's Tia.
Tia, it's
I
like
don't even
TS
know if
and-
it's, I don't
Tia.
think swim is, it's not under TWS.
No, it's Kiska.
It's not
Yeah.
the same.
It's Kiska.
different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, well, we need to talk to the.
Teska.
Teska, whoever, yeah.
Make sure.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know,
Because I know you have to get a waiver for a lot of school systems do wrestling that way.
Middle school or. work with
Well,
the
not
high
even
schools.
that, but just like
Oh,
a
combined.
group, a combined thing. I know a lot of wrestling programs had to get permission, so.
So, can we bring that to
How
the
much
board?
more stopping are
Ingrid, were we talking for a middle school typical,
we talking? Give me 1 second.
oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, I should have already looked it up. I thought of it earlier and then I lost it. So if we do it like we do at the high schools, it's the same category as our wrestling coaches are. So that starts at $1,266 and it goes all the way up to $2,533, depending on their experience.
Thank you.
Our coaches don't make a whole lot of money with anything that they do.
No.
And this will be
I mean, if that got us one child, we would make money. And I think, I mean, I'm for it.
Came to our system.
Yeah.
So is he coaching, I may be wrong, we may have discussed it before, is he coaching high school
He is.
at West Street?
He's the current high school coach, and I think students from Central have been,
I apologize, I didn't mean to come and might get into your work session, but he is currently the high school coach as of last year. He's coached 1 year so far there. He's the head site guy for the Kingsport Barracuda Club
Which is-
as well. And that has some of our
That's where the
elementary
middle-
school and
yeah,
middle school
yeah.
kids in it. Yes. He's got at least 3 or 4 elementary schools in that group, I know.
And to keep those kids from going to the city because we don't have the program.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. I think we already also would support it when we were up.
If you don't want the east kids, though, we gotta do something for them.
yep. That would be, and I don't know, there's not a whole slew of coaches out there,
Right.
so.
Especially for something like swimming, that's, how many people know swimming, you know?
The East has got a high school.
That might be a possibility that
Because they
the
don't.
high school coach would consider, we can't force them to do that.
Yeah.
That might be something they would consider as well. Be a lot easier logistically. Okay, so we'll try that. But we'll bring that to you for a vote tonight?
Sounds good.
All
I
right.
say 2 coaches. Oh, yeah.
I think it would be,
One coach or
it'd be,
2 supplements.
more.
I think that's a good idea, just in the off
Because
chance, yeah.
if you're at Sullivan Heights or you're at Central, the only pool that's really accessible would be at Central, so that makes sense.
Might be the same coach for 2
2
supplements.
supplements is what
Well, I
I
mean,
would think.
if I were to take on middle school,
Yeah.
I want another supplement for it.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, if I'm a high school.
So you get the high school on it, okay.
Yeah, that makes
You
sense.
get a high school sub,
You're not
middle
setting a
school
coach, you're
sub.
setting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think that's kind of what been discussed, is he might do the high school
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
practice.
so
and the
I would
middle
say
school
one
practice
for
follow.
the Sullivan Heights area and then one for the east area. Yeah, that way, yeah. So upper and
Well,
lower
we
end.
could
or however you
approve
wanna
it,
word
and then if you don't get nobody, then,
Right, we've not, we've got a position.
Right.
yeah.
All right. Next on our agenda, excuse me, is, this is gonna be as much of a complete presentation as you'll get, I think, at this point. We got, all the numbers plugged in, and, I'm gonna turn it over to Ingrid. But I wanna say before I turn it over to her, I mean, she was literally working on this right up until after 4 o'clock.
Hot off the
And
press.
it's not like she's not been working on it every single day, too.
We received.
While she's passing that out,
Two other things.
can we go back to the Holston engineering for just 1 second while she's passing it out?
Absolutely.
I think what we've heard about roofs, what we've heard about switch gears, everything that we've heard, we all know that there are big ticketed items that Sullivan County is going to have to somehow plan for going forward. And again, going back to that strategic plan, and this would even be a part that is a 5-year, 10-year, 15, 20, 30-year plan. And I don't even know if it'd be part of the strategic plan or not, but I guess it would. But I think something like that needs to be created as we're gathering this information, so it's all in one place as to what we need or what we anticipate that we're going to need. I'd be interested in if some other systems have some long-term, long-range plans and how they go about, not necessarily funding it as much as just how do they pull it all together, and how often do they have people like this come in and assess, that kind of thing. And then, I think that, and Mr. Hughes, you may have already mentioned this, but this is something that I think at least quarterly, Mr. Carter, you're going to have to go to the county commission, just so that you can publicly say, these are the needs that we see going forward. And somebody's got to have a plan, and since we don't have, a line item anymore, I just think we've got to go on record now saying, we see these things coming. The hole in the roof's this big right now, and we know it's getting ready to collapse at some point in time. Somebody's got to be ready to fix it.
With a leaky roof, and obviously the warranty issues, they're gonna be on the roof next week. So just to give everybody a heads up on that project will be underway next week. You can put trash cans and buckets around the building and maintain. That's not gonna recruit anybody who's standing from a recruiter. You're not gonna recruit a family to come in for a situation like that. A switchgear goes out, you can't have school in the building for a year. That's a problem. That's a problem.
Yeah.
And the same thing with other parts of the buildings. So I agree. Just in some more informal type conversation with some other directors of schools, they're like, you don't have a line for maintenance, and you don't have money that you get for maintenance. No, we really
used to.
don't. We used to.
We used to.
We're talking about our 5-year plan like it's a plan, but really, it's what it is
a wish list.
what we've already neglected. Our 5-year plan, to me, should be
Our
renovation of
trustee.
Mary Hughes, renovation of East,
Right.
and some of those, that's the.
That was a facilities
And
decision.
let me put it in perspective, because I know there are a lot of people that's new. For many years, we received around $800,000, and that was money to do projects. And at that time, we had over 20 schools. And to put it in perspective, you couldn't even do part of one roof. So then, everybody started seeing these type things coming, and they had a tax increase, and I've said this before, and we'll keep saying it. They raised taxes in July 2015 and designated 3 cents, which was 1.65 million. And let's put that in context. The roof at that time, just the portion that we did, which didn't get a very good job, was over $1 million something. And we financed that at a very low rate. And if we knew they was gonna take that money, well, we'd just paid for that project and we wouldn't have financed it. But it was a really good rate and it's paid off. And we're back working on it. But there's only one answer. It's the same thing as it is at your house. I have a heat pump that I put in 6 years ago, and I know in about 6 years I'm going to be putting another one in. We know these things. 1.6 million right now with inflation is about like what that 800,000 would have been when I came on the board. So at some point they'll either give us a line item, or they'll be tough to face with some tough decisions. Are we going to close this school or that school because of the roof or the switchgear or whatever it is? These are not, no other school system takes maintenance out of their budget, nor do they take raises. We've been really, really fortunate to do that. Let's just talk about that. In this budget presentation, you'll see last year we took $2,825,778. Well, that's a fluke. But it saves the county, giving that much to Kingsport, Bristol their share. So it saves the county about $6 million. But going forward, we've got to start living in the real world. These things are going to have a line item. Or there's going to be some people asking questions. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And when you get through the budget presentation today, and you see where we're at after encumbrances and so forth, you're going to see that we're not going to be able to dip into that fund balance like we have been. I think we utilized it to the fullest, and I'm happy with what we've done. But that party's over. And I think Mary's right. We got to think about two things. We got to think about those repairs, which everybody knows that are routinely going to do. And we got to think about the renovations and stuff on some of these schools that's really, at some point, we've got to consider. And we took a big leap of faith last year and gave big rates. And this year, we were able to cover it just like we said we could, and we're good. But we can't keep doing that. We can't keep taking big raises out of the budget or, let's talk about where that money come from. And Ingrid can probably fill in the blanks. When we started consolidating and closing schools, we realized savings from not heating and cooling 400 and some thousand square feet of space. And, we recouped a lot of savings, and we put that right back into, somebody's going to ask one day, what did you do with all those savings? Well, we took about $9 million out this year for raises and put it right back into our people. Last year alone, we took $3 million almost out of our budget and put it right back into maintenance. I think we put every penny of what we recouped from. And what's the other big source that we come up with the savings over the last few years? You told me it wasn't such a long.
Well, we've made numerous cuts. That list could be very lengthy if you want to go list all the cuts we've made over the past 10 years.
And let's just talk about personnel. Going back to when I was chairman, I lost track of time. I get to see it close to 20 people a year, 25. That was easy to do because we could close schools and we were what I call fat. We had extra people some places and it was easy to do. It's getting really difficult. So there's another place you can't go hunting anymore. That's not, you're not going to find there's not a bunch of people that floating out there that as they retire we don't need. So forget that. Very few places when you've cut and cut and cut, very few places left. Is that accurate?
That's right.
Not a lot of places you can look at and say, well, next year we can take another 30 positions, or we have just about milked that dry. So we've got to look at things that are more realistic, long-term view. And when I'm looking at the prices of these switchgears and things, if anybody here sitting here thinks we can take $40 million out of our budget over the last 5 years, or the next 5 years, it's not bad. I'm telling you, when Ingrid gets done tonight, I wouldn't say you should be scared, but you should be at the realization of where we're headed. We're back now where we're kind of, there's not a lot of places to look at. If I look at next year's budget, which I know she's already probably thinking about, it gets even harder next year, doesn't it? I mean, what did you find, 10 positions this year? And next year, there's not gonna be, I mean, we've got the system now, there won't be that many more. So, at any rate, I just want, for those that may not know the history, keep those numbers in perspective. That 1.65 million that they gave us in 2015, if we still had it in the budget, would be akin to the 800,000 that we had, going into the 80s and 90s. So, with the cost of inflation, after she goes through the budget, there may be some other things that I've been sitting here looking at some of it, and I'm going to tell you, don't take for granted what these folks have done, because last year when we committed to that raise, it could have been worse. This could have been a worse story. So we're very fortunate. But going forward, I don't want you to get fortunate. You're not going to get fortunate so many times. Anyway, I agree 100%. I think we got to look at what we need. I'd just like to know what that number is now. I mean, we got the Richter study and all those numbers we have. They might as well have been 100 years ago now. I'd like to know a little bit about what it would cost to do the renovation. I mean, with these switch gears and regular maintenance, you know in renovation what has. We know in renovation what needs to be done. We were just at East a few weeks ago. Everybody that was in that cold room. There's things, and I think interest rates are heading back in the right direction. I think there'll be a time when it won't be as expensive to do work as it is now. But what Mr. Burchett presented the other day was very eye-opening for me, and I put a lot of thought into that after that meeting. It was kind of, I've been here a long time, and that was a little bit of a shock to me.
Amos, you have another copy.
I didn't get your copy, did I?
That's okay. I thought it was on the screen.
I shared a copy of the slides with you.
Oh, okay, so I'm just looking on mine.
Well, there's a lot of other information
Oh,
there. You may
all
want
right.
So we'll just jump right in. This is the general purpose school fund. And some things have changed since we talked last, and some things are still the same, so we'll just go through that. One of the things that hasn't changed is our local revenue projection. We are still basing that off of Mr. Bailey's projection that he gave us the other day, last month actually. So our revenues, this didn't give us an exact estimate for each line item, so what I did was I just adjusted them according to this percentage to make that total match. So he may suggest a different method, and I'm perfectly fine with that. As long as our bottom line matches, it really doesn't matter how we do that in there. That's what we based our local revenues off of, which is a major funding source for the general purpose school fund. The TISA estimate, we did receive a new TISA estimate via email on the 29th of April. And that TISA estimate, you have in that packet a copy of the current year's final estimate and a copy of the April estimate. I wanted you all to see that because it's kind of confusing. People cut little snippets out of it and say this is this and this is that, but if you don't see the whole thing, you really can't understand it. And I'm guilty as well because I cut a little bitty piece out of it so that you can see that, but this is the main thing. The bottom line is what this one is. And you can see on this April estimate was calculated using our confirmed fiscal capacity numbers. And I could try to explain to you fiscal capacity, and I would do a terrible job, so I'm not even going to try it. But basically, that's how they calculate how much our local percentage will be. So that's our confirmed numbers, so I feel pretty good about that. But that allowed us to see a bigger increase than we were seeing in the March estimate. So this is actually $414,000 over what we received in the current year. And you'll see that when you look at those two estimates. But when you look at that estimate, lots of focus goes on this $73 million number. And I wish that's what we got in our TISA allocation, but that is not. That is the total allocation, and then that has to be split between state and local. So if you go all the way down here, you can see what our actual allocation will be, 51.9. So when TISA first came out, everybody was touting at the state level, oh, we're going to give you extra millions of dollars. And that was somewhat true, but it's nowhere near true when you look at that top number. I wish we got $73 million. We wouldn't have to worry about switch gears or roofs or We could probably even build a swimming pool if we wanted to, but we don't get $73 million. So we get 51.9 according to the April estimate. The April estimate also kind of dictates some of our expenditures. So with the TISA estimate, they're giving us funding to get educator salaries up to that $50,000 minimum. But when they give you money, they require that you spend that money how they give it to you. So we are required to spend $988,000 on educator salaries. Now, I tried to get us a waiver. I tried to get us a get out of jail free card because I said we have given a huge raise in the 24-25 year to all of our employees. We exceeded what was required of us in the 24-25 year. Is there any way we could borrow a little bit of that to get out of this? Because we already made our $50,000 minimum and we already exceeded. Unfortunately, I got shot down. We have a clean slate this year, so it doesn't matter what we gave last year. We got to start all over again. So we've got to get $988,000 in our budget as an increase to educator salaries. We can use our steps, but that's not $988,000. I'm sorry, I'm apparently got allergies or something, but what I have presented to you in that line item budget includes 1.5% for all of our employees. That will get us to the 988, but that also gives us the support staff and the same raise that the professionals would get. So it's 1.5% for all employees. These numbers don't match, and they shouldn't match. That satisfies the 988 if we do the steps and 1.5% for professionals. That satisfies that, but that also gives our support staff the equivalent raise that we give to our professionals. We'll pause a minute because that's a lot.
I think this is newer information here we didn't have prior, so it doesn't, we gave you what it would take to do a 1% raise, but to meet the 988 that we're required to put in salaries for everybody, because that 988 doesn't serve our non-certified employees, that 1.5%, that's the total that we would have to do for a 1.5% raise. Any questions on that part?
Can we go back to the first page where it says 35,844,000? I just want to point out, again, a little bit of history. Most companies make assumptions on what's going to happen next year, and most of the time there's increases. But in our world, we're going down because we're losing students. For example, in 2019-20, we had an ADM of 8,942 students. This year, that number is 7,643. That's $4,606 per student, compared to back then $4,567, which is just a 38% increase. But look at the top where it says $16,684,000 is what we received in as property tax, right? Mm-hmm. Back in 2019-20. That number was $21,633 and $633,583. So just for, I'm sure there's at least one person in the room that knows this, maybe more. But that decreases because they stopped funding us with property tax and started funding us with sales tax. So that's about a 25% decrease. So what happens one day when sales tax decreases? So that's another one of those things when you look at this budget and look at next year. Sales tax, I don't think it's going to keep going like it has been. So when sales tax levels out or goes down, that's going to be another issue for it. So we're not headed in a direction upward on sales tax laws. So I just want to point out those numbers, which to me are kind of shocking. The way I look at it is it's like trying to pay your house payment on commission. You don't have a guaranteed amount of income. I just think that funding this off of sales tax is gonna turn out to be a mistake. And when they have to raise taxes, they're gonna look at us and say, well, we're doing it for you, but if they had left it alone.
It gets them a better bond rate, being on the property tax, like they're getting their money.
I just don't think long-term it is a good business. Do you? I mean,
I have legs and lungs in the business, so.
I mean, but if, would you say that's a good plan 10 years from now, 5 years from now? Probably. Could be, could be.
It's a gamble.
Remember, you're sitting in a school board seat right now.
I mean,
I'm just saying.
if you're running this business, which way would you rather be funded?
Oh, I mean, I'd much rather be funded on property taxes because it's more consistent.
Let me ask a question, just for clarification for me. When they changed it from property tax to sales tax, what was the rationale behind that?
So they could lower the tax rate, right?
No, it was, they said that we had too much in our fund balance and stuff. And instead of taking money away from us, they said we can't decrease that, so we're gonna take part of the property tax instead of the sales tax. Because we have to get the sales tax.
If they said that, it was untrue. Because it didn't change the real numbers. What they really did it for was so they could say they lowered the tax rate. They may have said that story, but they can't take money away from us because we have money in fund balance. They can take it, of course, from the students, which we do, and they took $1 million from us last year, and they took $750,000 this year. But they did it so it would look like they were lowering the tax rate.
Yeah, well, it also,
Yeah, but they did
also
lower the tax
unencumbered
rate, didn't
their property tax number, so they look better on bond ratings.
Say that again?
It makes your property tax less encumbered if you have more people on your if you have the schools on your sales tax because of your bond rating.
But all they did, they take it away
It's
from
like,
the school.
it's like when you go get a loan and they're like, your debt, your debt to income.
It gives you a better rate.
It gives you a better rate.
But what they did, they took that percentage of the property tax away from the school system and put it in the county's general fund.
That is true.
So it wasn't that they lowered the property tax. It wasn't. They just shifted the number from the property tax from the school system back to the county's general fund. So they wouldn't have to raise taxes for their. Yeah, it was so they didn't have to raise taxes for the county's needs.
I'm just trying to
Thanks.
make a picture here of what, where we've been, where we're at, where we're going. And to me, this budget is a little bit concerning. This budget scares me a little bit because of what might happen next year.
Did we ever get the liquor by the drink tax? Why? Because I mean, by law, the school system's supposed to be getting part of that.
I can't answer that. I never see liquor by the drink, so I don't know where it goes or, who's.
Pursue.
Because that was one of the things that was in the referendum, that part of that tax was taxed to the school system. I thought the law.
Discussion, but I don't think it's going to happen that way.
Yeah,
The
how?
counties, I think some cities,
This was 3 years ago.
I don't think it can be first.
Some things that we talked about that haven't changed, step increases are still in there. That's $700,000 that we had to add. We were able to get somewhat of an idea for health insurance. Our fiscal rep announced that there would be a 7% increase at the fiscal workshop, and then benefits administration came back and said they don't know what the rate's going to be. So I've used 7%, and I'm hopeful that 7% is enough. But in the back of my mind, I'm concerned my benefits administration didn't say 7%. So when Ms. Keller said, I hope they backed me up in their presentation, and they didn't, that kind of concerns me. So that's an estimate. Hopefully it's right, but just to be honest, Kirsten was there with me. We don't really know if 7% will be enough. We're hopeful, but that's what we got in there.
If you go 7%, it turns out wrong, where does that money come from? You have, how do you, that may bring us an in?
It'll just increase our expenditures. There's not any money that's gonna come with it. It'll just increase our expenditures. So we'll get to that part here in just a minute. A couple more slides, we'll know where it's gonna come from. I was able to do the dental insurance change. That's very minimal, $8,000 for that. Those three things are mandatory. And we don't have a choice on those three. We have to pay our insurance premiums, and we've already obligated ourselves to pay the step increases. These next few things that I'm going to tell you are not mandatory, but I would suggest we do at least talk about them. I have still included the moving the secretaries and elementary bookkeepers to 8 hours per day for 205 days each year. We've all talked about that. We know what that's for. That's not mandatory by any means. I have nothing that says we have to do that. That's just something that I think would help our principals as well as our secretaries and bookkeepers. We've moved the online school to 200 seats. It's not mandatory, but that's the only way that I can come up with that we can stop losing students to homeschool or another online school. And I don't have that number as to how many we lost this year, but I think that's the only program. We can't sell a widget and make more money, but we can do an online school to get people to come to us instead of going somewhere else. And you better believe they know what's being offered everywhere else. There's $500,000 included in there, and I don't know what to call this because I'm not in transportation, but I call it a transportation tracking equipment. It's the iPad system where the kids come on the bus, swipe the badge, get on, get off, and it tracks everybody. There's probably a really technical name for that, but I don't know what it is. So in the Ingrid version, it's transportation tracking equipment. There's $500,000 in that. Again, it's not mandated, but.
I will say, Justin's not here today, transportation supervisor. He wasn't here at work, he was out sick. He said the only thing that we should make sure we consider there is with this, consolidating CNS and Central and all that, he's not 100% solid that this is a good investment to put on CNS buses this year because they'll be gone the next year. And so he said if there was a conversation, that would be something to delay it 1 year or even the next year where hopefully we got one contract.
But it's our equipment.
It's our equipment.
It's our equipment.
Take it
Oh,
off, put it on, put it
But
on.
you gotta reinstall
Isn't he gonna take most of the buses?
it. He'll have still, there's a considerable amount that next year. We'll have all the east on this year.
Yeah, but I mean, when it's all said and
When
done,
it's all said and done.
is he not gonna have a lot of those physical buses, nothing else?
A lot of those are out of date. And he's
So how, do you know how many he's talking about that we don't need to use? Because, listen, we've obligated, next year when school starts, I want tracking on the buses. And I think what maybe I was talking about, I think, is the thing where when a kid gets on, the picture pops up, so we don't take a kid that's not supposed to be there.
You're saying next year, that's 25, 26, right?
Well, 25, 26, we take over the east zone buses from CNS to Central. We don't, Central Bus Company does.
Right.
And then the next year would be everything, Martin.
And we can find out how many those are.
Yes.
And maybe just, but,
Could we gotta do it, those buses that won't come till 26, 27, could we not just
Do
set
just
that money
one?
aside? Put it in a different fund, and wait until then?
but we would be tracking those routes, right?
No, and I understand not putting them on there, I get Justin's theory on
Let's see how
that.
many they are. Is there 10?
Yeah.
Is there 2? Is there 20?
If it's like one or two buses, then
Why can't we put them on there and when they're done, we take them off and put them on the new ones?
It's our equipment.
It's our equipment.
And
Yeah.
these people that do that have obligated to come and train and do that. Let's see what we're talking about before we, like Paul said, before we decide, let's see how many we're talking, but the public is paying attention. I've had people I didn't know walk up to me and say, the tracking still won't happen. There's a lady right here one month, as I left, she mentioned, I don't think she was good. I think it's a when you're talking about the safety, we've got SRO officers. I mean, a couple of years ago, we had a first or second grader walk along the road. I think we've had that happen twice.
No, we had the one student that got picked up.
We've been extremely fortunate that we haven't had a walk. So what if it had been 10 degrees? I mean, I'm sorry, guys, I thought I had to stand.
So if we put the equipment on the bus, then the people that we buy it from has to come and take it off and reinstall it.
That's part, and as we change buses, by the way,
It's gonna happen.
So how often are they willing to come?
As often as we pay them.
But we pay them each time?
well, I think, I'd have to look at the contract, it's been a while since we looked at that. But I think there's a certain amount, that they've agreed, a certain amount of ongoing training and maintenance that they've
I mean,
agreed to.
I would hope that it would be so simple that we're talking 10 buses, just hypothetically. I would hope it would be so simple that those 10 buses would be parked in a parking lot somewhere, and that guy that comes from Michigan or wherever will go to that parking lot and uninstall and then install. But we all know how things can happen sometimes, so there might be 5 sitting in that parking lot. 5 other drivers haven't gotten them there yet, and they're elsewhere. It just might not be as simple getting them off as going to that parking lot and getting them, and it may be.
The big thing is the initial installation. That's going to be, that's a big job. And training, once we get the system up and running, those are not a big deal. The first part is a big deal. The big install, training all these people who don't want to be trained and don't want to know this, they'll take a little bit. But once they get used to it, they'll be fine. But I don't worry about that part. That part don't worry me. What worries me now is all the things that could happen, and that all the other systems are putting those cameras there. Those things, I mean, it does no good to have one SRO officer or 2 in a school. If you don't have these other things, SRO officer can't do anything about somebody getting delivered to our school that shouldn't even be there. And by the way, I'm not going to go into detail. It's happening already. It's already happening. And they will call and escort it out to place at one high school. So it's already happened. We picked up a kid that wasn't supposed to be picked up. This was somebody that wanted to ride the bus, and we delivered them. It's already happened. No, we didn't have a shooting or anything, but I think when you know things and you don't fix it, you're kind of doubly responsible. And these are some things, and I know we're in a budget. The budget's kind of tight, but all these things that she's put in, I just don't think we can, every bit of those things are necessary expenditures to me. Yeah, they're right now, what's the word you use? You don't have to do it.
They're not mandatory.
They're not mandatory. But once it happens, I mean, I want to be able to say, we did everything we could to close all the loopholes we can. And then if something happens, still will be a war. Well, at least we know we did everything we could do. A lot of the other systems already track their buses. A lot of the other systems already have these cameras. And we have a decision to make as a board. Are we going to do it now? Or are we going to wait till something happens? And I think Angie Stanley, about 5 years ago, said it. But then she went on the school board. It's not a matter of if, but it's a matter of when. And we did the officers in the school for them. She made that statement. I was watching the news when she said it. I said, that's true. So these are just things I think we got back to where we're going. I think while it's not mandatory, I think it's obligatory. Kind of an obligation if you do your fiduciary responsibility if you want to do it in financial terms. I mean, these are responsibilities that any prudent people will do. Don't forget, we got 400 miles. 400 miles of bus routes. It's a lot of area. It's not like we're a city and we got a little bitty circle. We've got 400 miles. So I'm going to defend that. And expenses like that, it's not as much on. It is.
So just to be clear, these are included in your line item budget that you have in front of you. So there won't have to be any ads for that, just so that's clear. The next two items are covered with a reserve. We put $150,000 in to help with our intercom equipment. That won't even, I guess it puts a dent in our problem, Angie, but it doesn't fix our problem by any means. Our intercoms are so antiquated that our emergency alert system doesn't work really good with antiquated equipment. So not only is it a daily communication problem, but it could really be a security issue. So there's $150,000 in there for that. And there's also $1 million in there for capital improvement. And I'll try to tell you I think I told you once, but I'll tell you again. When the cooling tower went down at Emmett, we needed to get it fixed pretty quick. Bill's guys had got it to where it would work long enough for us to get it fixed, but we needed to turn around quick. Well, we had to request money for that. Had to go to the county commission to get the money, approval to spend our money, and then had to put it out for bid. A couple of months. This will allow us to take out of that reserve and put it into capital improvements. And if we have an emergency, I don't know that $1 million will cover it, but it's my best shot at it. Hopefully, if there's an emergency, we don't have to wait 2 months to get approvals to spend our own money. That's already taken it out of the reserve and put it in our budget where we can spend it that way. We covered the intercom equipment with that reserve as well. That reserve was established when we sold Colonial Heights Middle School. So there's almost $2.3 million in there, I believe. We didn't take it all, but we took half of it. Only if we need it. I can pretty much guarantee you we'll exhaust the $150,000, but the $1 million, it just depends on what happens. And the bottom two, obviously, we're going to take the advantage of those because those are cuts. We got to take advantage of a retirement rate change that was a cut, and then we've made various personnel and operational cuts as well. And we would take advantage of that regardless of whatever's happening.
They passed the law where they were doing a capital outlay thing at the state level,
No,
where the school system had to have that.
no, I don't know if they moved on that one.
I read that, Angie, but I don't
I
know
don't
if it passed
think
or
it
not.
passed.
That's a good point.
I didn't see it when we got the rundown.
So let's talk a little bit about those reserves. I already told you about the capital improvements reserve, and I already see a typo on my sheet, and I'm sorry. You'll figure it out when you turn to the next slide. But the debt reserve, there was about $217,000 left in that debt reserve, $217,367. You all established that reserve to cover the last of the EESI debt payments, and we finished that up this year. So that will come out of that reserve. It counteracts the expense that we have, and that way it'll cover that. We don't have to worry about covering that expense again. Textbook reserve, you set that up last year. You set up $850,000. We've spent about $710,000. So there's still $140,000 left in that reserve, and we use that to offset the cost of textbooks. That will nowhere near cover the cost of textbooks, but it does contribute a little bit to that. So the next slide is the big one. If you total up all of our revenues and all of our expenditures, we're about $11.2 million out. So if you throw in the reserves, it leaves us $9.7 million out of balance. So that's what we have budgeted to come out of our undesignated fund balance. I will say this is a worst case scenario budget. It is not bare bones. We don't budget bare bones because that doesn't make any sense. Do I think we will take $9.7 million out of our fund balance? I do not. But you have to budget worst case scenario because you don't want to be on the other side of that in the middle of the year and realize you don't have enough money to pay your people. So this is worst case scenario. Now the other thing that we still don't know is on the next slide. We still don't know what our fund balance will be on June 30th. But we can, in a roundabout way, estimate that. So I took the numbers straight off the balance sheet with Skyward as to what we started the year with. We budgeted out of fund balance for this current year, 24-25, $6.8 million. I've exempted that out because right now we can't touch that money because we don't know where we're going to be at the end of the year. I think reserving that whole amount out is a very conservative approach, but I don't know any other way to figure out what number to put in there, because we don't have that number yet. To date, you have allocated out of our fund balance $2.8 million, and there's a list of those projects that you have in your packet. It shows everything we've spent it on. Lots of East High School projects, cooling tower at Emmett we just talked about, and I think I highlighted the $75,000 for the child care program. You allocated that, but we're very hopeful we're not going to have to touch it, because there's some grants that we're hoping to utilize. So you allocated up to $75,000. If we don't touch it, we don't touch it. So that got us down to 18.7. We are required by the state to hold 3% operating in our fund balance. So 3% of our current budget, or our predicted budget for next year, is $3 million roughly. If we take out the $9.7 that we have to balance, that puts us right at $6 million. That's totally unobligated by any stretch of the imagination. And I think that's a very conservative estimate. I'm not telling you that's what our fund balance is going to be July the 1st. In no way do I want you to think that. But I think that's the best way to kind of give you an idea of where we could possibly land. But that is a very conservative estimate on that. And if that were to be the case, and we were to come with a budget next year that required $9.7 million out, they wouldn't approve our budget. And when I say they, that's the state. That's not county commission, that's not you, that's the state. Even if we got all of our local approvals, the state would turn around and say you don't have enough to take it out of there. If that's where we landed. So I just want to caution you. I don't want to scare you to death, but I just want it in the back of your mind. If we're in this spot next year when we're sitting here, we're going to have to find out how we're going to get $9.7 million. And we just talked about, this includes nothing for Bill's 5-year capital improvement plan. Nothing. We have $1 million in there if we have emergencies, but that doesn't touch his capital improvement plan. I think he presented you with over $9 million in year one. That doesn't include that. That is just for a general purpose school fund. As far as capital improvements, we've got $1 million set aside for that in that budget that you have, but we don't have anything for his improvement plan.
Open up for any questions or comments?
So, are we, as far as this plan, I know we did the lighting project, is that, are we paying that off, or is that, are we just using the loan, like the debt service on that?
This doesn't include anything for the lighting project.
Okay.
And we're not to that point yet, I don't think,
No.
because we're not
They're
even,
going to start meeting in May, and then they'll start when school's out. The goal there is that the payment offsets savings.
Yes, that's
Yeah, so-
the goal.
you know,
Yeah, but I was just, we were talking if we had any rollover, and so I just didn't know
Oh.
if the rollover was,
That's not,
if it was anywhere in that number. So, because I didn't know what all was encumbered on the obligations there.
that's all I had for GPS money.
so basically, we will be asking the board tonight to vote on a balanced budget that would require us to take 9.7 out of our unfunded, undesignated fund balance to balance the budget, but that we would take the balanced budget to the county budget committee.
Have we lost? I don't know the answer. Every year since we built the schools, have we been in a situation where they were able to take money because of the changes in the city commission? on the city county split. Has there been a year
City county split does not dictate if the county can take money from us. The MOE dictates that.
loss of students?
Yeah, and we have lost students every year, and they have been able to utilize the MOE to be able to reduce their funding.
So, do you have any idea what that number is since 2016, this was roughly 670? I had it somewhere, and I can't.
I got it written in there.
Put my finger on it right now, but at any rate, we haven't received a penny. Is it accurate to say we haven't received a penny from the county? In fact, they've taken money every year since the year of the bond. Is that accurate?
I would hate to say if that was accurate or not without verifying for sure, but
Pretty close.
they usually go with the maintenance of effort is how they adjust their funding. And I think the 2020, when the county took over giving us our revenues, I believe that's when it was, 2020 or 2021, I can't remember. So when that happened, I can guarantee that's when we started getting straight to the maintenance of effort.
I thought it some point, almost
I do
every year,
too, but I
if
don't
not
know.
every year. But there was one year they had to give us some money because of the mistake they had made the prior year. But other than that, I can't think of a year. The main point is, we lose money about every year because of the loss of students. We've not gained students that I can think of. Not any year. I mean, we just talked about 8,900 and now we're 76. We're losing that every year.
I don't want to put our supervisors on the spot, but I do think that, and Ms. Nestor, with enrollment for next year, most schools are reporting numbers
Our
up.
kindergarten enrollment. The enrollment so far isn't exceeding what we currently have in seats, but it far exceeds at some schools
Where we're
what
at.
they typically register early. So some
Because there'll
schools,
be more.
There'll be
oh,
more
there'll be
coming.
more, yeah, there's always more.
What's the Almont school looking like?
We're already, well, had the application out for 3-4 days. We're already at what we were before and surpassing it. As far as, you know, we had that 50 mark that we sort of said we had to cap out at. But we, in the transition course, you're going to lose seniors, and there were students that we, I'll just say uninvited. And then even after that, we've already added that we're past, back up to 50, and probably by the time this meeting started, probably past that.
I feel very confident that's going to continue to grow. So if we can, and these are ifs, but if we can continue with our enrollments being positive, if we get up to that 200 threshold that we set as a goal, maybe that enrollment number improves. And I think that's what Amy's point was. That's the one thing that can help stop the bleed on those students.
Well, you also got to think of the demographic of the area is changing. Millennials now outpopulate the boomers in this area now by 2%. It's the largest group, population group in the Tri-Cities region right now. Sullivan County, for sure, is millennials now.
What's that?
Millennials are the largest group in Sullivan County now, like as far as a generational.
So is that going to be parents?
That would be probably parents, I mean, because you're looking anywhere from 27 all the way up to about 38, 40. A lot of people are waiting a
Boomers
lot.
aren't doing that
I'm
kidding.
Okay, moving right along. So, we talked about school nutrition budget at the board retreat. Unfortunately, the picture's not any brighter there. We still don't have a reimbursement rate from the federal government, but with projections like we think they're going to be, overall revenues will be down $650,000. It is what it is, but that's still maintaining CEP for students. so our students will be fed. And we should get that probably later this summer, we'll get the reimbursement rate, but we projected on the downside so that we can be safe no matter what we do. Step increases for school nutrition were $50,000. Health insurance for school nutrition at 7% is $25,000. And the dental insurance carrier change was just $1,000 on that. The big one for school nutrition is food costs. Amber's tried to estimate that, but who knows what it's going to go to. I don't think anybody has a clue about that. Hopefully we've got enough in there to cover it, but with the cost increase for food and the revenue decrease, it creates a deficit. So we are $1.4 million out in food service. Again, that's a worst case scenario, so hopefully that we wouldn't have to take that out. And we are very fortunate that Amber has worked so hard to build a fund balance. So when a day like this comes, we can cover it. I told you this before and I'll tell it again. When I came, I remember my first thing to do with food service was to go tell them, you can't spend anything the month of June because I can't even get your paycheck ready. So you can imagine how that went. Didn't go over very well, but it was the honest truth. We did not have enough cash to even to do anything. We were to the bare bones. Amber's worked very hard, her people have worked very hard, and we have a fund balance now. So that we're okay right now, but I just want you to know we can't continue this trend. It's the same song that we were singing just a minute ago. But at least we have a fund balance to be able to use. And that would not have happened if they hadn't been good stewards of what they had. There's very minimal waste in our school nutrition department. So that, if we had to take out 1.4, that leaves them with 2.5 without any obligations. So,
Amber, if you had to, before this year, you haven't had to use the fund balance, have you?
We had to move some last year, but it was maybe 300,000.
that's right.
Yeah.
And we may have to move some this year.
Last year, what would you attribute, what would it attribute to? Because I know what happened this year.
Food cost increased, yeah, just about everything went up, 15, 20%. And
Happened after they stopped the discounts we were getting for COVID?
yeah, so what happened after COVID that hurt us with food costs, before COVID we had bid pricing, and bid pricing would be locked in for so many years. During COVID, because of supply and demand, companies were saying, well, we've got to increase cost for X, Y, and Z. And you either accept that price increase or you don't get that product. And so that's kind of the climate we're in now. Even though we get bid pricing, companies can increase for fuel, for salary increases for drivers because they're having driver shortages for trucking. They can increase because the price of cardboard has gone up, or they need a certain flour to make bread. They can increase for any reason, and they'll send us that increase, and we can choose to accept it or choose to not get that product.
And right now, our school nutrition fund is self-supporting, so you don't have to fund anything through school nutrition. So it's operating as smooth as it can, with no control of what they get to operate with, because they can't control what money they get back from the federal government, and they can't control what they have to pay out for food. So in your packet, you also have the Discovery Academy budget. It's simple. It's our tuition-based pre-K program, and that's if it's maxed out. We are not maxed out now, but if we should happen to get maxed out, this budget will cover it. That was very simple. What you do not have in front of you is our federal projects budgets. We are not to the point where I have anything to present to you. I was going to go present everything that has been approved, well, guess what? I've presented to you everything that's been approved because we don't have anything to be approved yet. So I'll have to take something to the county commission eventually. They just have to have a piece of paper that says what our federal projects are, but that will come to you, and we'll let you approve those applications when we get them approved by the state. That's all I got.
Any other questions or anything for Andrew or anything the board like to discuss? Like I said earlier, the goal would be to have a vote tonight to approve a balanced budget, to take to the budget committee. And if that's the case, I'm set on their calendar to approve, to present tomorrow at 4 o'clock. So that's if we have a vote tonight. No other conversations?
Thank y'all.
Okay.
I mean, it's no small undertaking. I know y'all work to the wee hours of the night, weekends, and everything else. Thank you for doing that.
I presented, but I did not do all this work.
No.
People say that this table did this work, and
Right.
I just get to be the one that puts it on the pretty slides and.
Collectively.
That food budget is maybe the most impressive. Yeah, I mean, to have a $4 million fund balance, yeah, that would, that was.
We've been penny pinchers.
Huh?
I said, we've been penny pinchers.
That's obvious.
Do we want to move on to the review of the regular agenda? Am I good? Okay. So, looking at our regular agenda, we do have the consent there. He asked me to approve that. Mr. Price, we asked me to approve the consent, which has Westridge postage meter lease, which is just an annual item, and then the field trips. So comment, and then down to the director's comments, I'll be mentioning about graduation dates, which just for the group that's here present right now. East High School's graduation is at 6 o'clock on Thursday, May 15th. I've done this will be my third year. The last 2 years, we have offered to meet here and ride in a van. And so if there's any interest in that, you know, I know Mr. Rouse, Dr. Rouse, excuse me, and Mr. Hughes probably aren't interested, but you want to just drive up, or if you want to meet here, Mr. Price drives us up there in one of the vans.
From next door.
If it's past a car or truck, I don't want to do it.
Do we get a police escort as well?
We don't get a police escort.
We put you on a lease van.
We can get them to traffic though.
Blue lights, get you through.
We used to do, remember that?
Yes, what, when you was transporting.
When you had
Evelyn-
on the same night?
All four graduations.
Had to get Evelyn from east to central, or central to east. And there was really just a few minutes in between.
Just go.
Yep.
I mean, she had
I run
to-
off the stage at one and, yep.
So you don't have to tell me that tonight, but if we do want to do that, I'll have Christie send it out and ask everybody.
Also, just tell me, like, dress code, like what you. what you-
Comfortable?
Your road.
Because we'll
Well, I
have.
know that.
Yeah, I think.
Cool,
Like one dress real.
We'll be burning,
Yeah,
you'll
you'll be
burn,
burning.
cool for east, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know, it was cold in there last night, wasn't it?
Yeah, the area
In
was
the
so
gym.
loud you couldn't hear the speaker on.
It was cold and.
Yeah, but it ain't when they're calling.
You put that many people.
So, but like, I didn't know if it was like a certain color tie or
It works.
anything. I just,
Yeah.
I just want to make sure, because I don't want to show up and then you'll be like, that's
You-
the wrong
you'll
time.
need-
And you need to fight somebody.
Yes, you got black.
Yeah, the wrong color to get in the fight.
And the sash.
Yeah.
It covers up to about right here, so you can't even see it.
Christie has them on now, though.
So I just want to
She
check,
doesn't
you
have it
know.
here tonight. I think she'll have it by Friday.
Hey.
They were redoing the logo.
When I was at Donald's Bid, they outlawed high heels. I couldn't wear high heels.
We wear the
It's the
same.
same one, but it's redoing the district logo.
Oh.
So those will be ready.
I had to wear flats.
I won't be here for the East graduation.
Okay. So you won't be riding her.
Right, I'll be out of town that day, so.
Then I'll also, we mentioned that the last day of school for our students is May 22nd. That is a half day. So that'll be our director's comments. Under special recognition, and as I said at the beginning of our meeting, A through H is a very good problem to have. Each of these have really stepped up and are need to be commended. Obviously, this is May. If we try to get people back in June,
school's out, people are on vacations, it's hard to organize this and get people here. So we do have several recognitions to be made tonight. And very proud of each and every one of those, so we'll recognize those independently there. Under unfinished business, we will, as the work session has provided us, we'll vote on the Holston Warehouse property, whether we're going to release that back to the county. And then also on the middle school swim team, whether we're going to accept 2 stipends, one for Central Sullivan Heights team, and then one for a Sullivan East middle school team stipend. So it would be asking to vote for 2 stipends in middle school swim. Under new business, the policy updates, A, B, and C. Those have been in your board packet. Those are TSBA recommended changes. If there's any question on those, but those are just their recommendations to change wording and add and delete. So it'd be asking to approve those. On the waiver of rules on first reading, adopt on first reading. Under B, differentiated pay plan, I believe Mr. Deloche has provided that for you. Is it, do I have that, or did she put it on? It's online. It's online. But that's just how our differentiated pay plan, our plan, what that is. And so asking for approval of D, and then C, the budget items, grant revisions, voluntary pre-K, Title I, Part A, and CTE Perkins budget. Just clean those up. It's getting close to the end of the year. And then GP budget amendments as well. And then letter C is a resolution to recognize the reimbursement for our dual enrollment instruction in the 24-25 general purpose school budget. And then obviously D would be our vote on the presentation or the budget that was just presented.
We have handbooks recreated and ready for next year.
The rights and responsibilities, they've met and finalized their thoughts, but we don't think we have the actual document yet. Any other questions, comments? I'm like Mr. Price, I just want to say thank you to Lynn. I appreciate her everything. All right, we'll meet downstairs in about